to death of hearing things from you, running psychotic, big-headed politics. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. I'm sick and tired of reading things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocritics. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. Well, all I want is the truth. Well, just give me some truth. Well, all I want is the truth. Well, just give me some truth.
Welcome. I'm Mark Cassavant, Senior Vice President of Product Development for Klipsch Group. We are here to share with you this brand new lineup of loudspeakers, the Reference and Reference Premier lines. And we are also going to introduce the team members that have made this possible, the people behind the scenes that make Klipsch so fantastic as a speaker line. The power and performance of these speakers really are a reflection of the people that have built them. The Reference and Reference Premier lines are the most awarded and celebrated of the speaker lines within the Klipsch family of products. Now, we all know about the heritage products, the products that made Paul Klipsch famous in the hi-fi industry. And he really embarked on that out of his passion and love for music, but also his dissatisfaction with the current performance of products in the marketplace. In the process, he developed a design philosophy that set the course for everything we do, every product we've made since. The Reference and Reference Premier speaker lines represent the essence of Klipsch throughout the world. They are notable for their copper cones, easily recognizable as a Klipsch. And of course, the immediately noticeable horn technology that Klipsch has been famous for over 75 years. For 75 years, Klipsch has not only perfected, but evolved the technology that go into Klipsch products, bringing that alive dynamic sound that we're famous for. So the design philosophy that Paul Klipsch really started with the heritage products, and we continue to make today, are brought home here in these products as well. For many years, Klipsch really sought to bring loudspeakers into the product mix that were the modern iteration of the Klipsch design philosophy. Slim and elegant design, but still that big, massive sound that we're really known for. Everybody loves the sound of live music, and when you hear a heritage speaker, you're immediately impacted by the power and dynamics and also delicate nature of those products. We always sought to bring that level of performance in an easy-to-live-with speaker line, but is set apart from every other speaker in the industry. So we often talk about Klipsch design philosophy, and if you get into the website, you'll see it discussed everywhere for all of our products. Paul Klipsch believed that the power of a live performance from a loudspeaker system was only possible if the speaker didn't have to work hard to deliver that sound. So what we're discussing here is high efficiency. High efficiency, and what he discovered was the inverse relationship to distortion. So the more efficient or higher the sensitivity of a loudspeaker, the lower the inherent distortion in the system. He identified for the industry types of distortion, modulation distortion in particular. Modulation distortion and total harmonic distortion are the things that distract you from it being a live performance in your home. So the harder a loudspeaker has to work, the more distortion. And that inverse relationship with high efficiency and low distortion is what brings another quality to the table from Klipsch, and that is dynamic range. Dynamic range merely represents the power of the loudest sounds in music or movies, real life, or the most delicate, softest sounds that are reproduced with accuracy and true-to-life reproduction. Dynamic range is what sets all Klipsch speakers apart from anything else in the marketplace. You will hear dynamic range out of these products that you've never heard in similar sized products or even bigger products. So there are two things here that are related: high efficiency, low distortion, and broad dynamic range. They are related. There are two other aspects of the design philosophy that are related. When you look at a horn driver, You can almost sense that it is releasing the sound in a controlled manner into the room. What is really cool about that is Klipsch speakers sound consistent from room to room to room because they are controlling the dispersion into the room, delivering consistent sound in the listening area and only the listening area. We're not sending sound here, here, here. We're presenting a live musical soundstage. Control directivity is also very important for multi-channel sound systems. We're talking about home theater. Control directivity allows multiple channels to work together as one to deliver sound uniformly throughout the room that follows exactly the movement of the soundtrack. We even use our horn technology for Atmos applications where we fire the sound up to reproduce a sound field above your head. So horn technology and control directivity is a critical element for the accuracy of sound reproduction that Klipsch deliver. Here's another benefit. Because the sound is controlled, it is also delivering uniform frequency response. So flat response is the fourth tenet of our design philosophy. Frequency response is often talked about. On-axis response in an anechoic chamber, laboratory measurements. We're talking about real-world, in-room frequency response, real-world sound quality. So it's really about balance. High frequencies, mid frequencies, deep bass frequencies, all with equal weight and presence and accuracy. Often people will listen to speakers and say, oh, I don't know if they'll sound good in my home. Control directivity ensures you'll have consistent sound, not just in the showroom, but in your home, whether you have hard surfaces like glass or tile, or if you have carpeting and soft surfaces. You will hear consistent sound from room to room to room. So these tenets of Klipsch design philosophy, high efficiency, low distortion, broad dynamic range, control directivity, smooth in-room flat frequency response, all contribute to the alive sound of Klipsch. And that is exactly what these speaker lines deliver. Often when we're at trade shows, people come up to us and say, I love my Klipsch speakers, thank you. And we'll ask, well, how long have you had your Klipsch? 2, 3, 4 decades, a long time. This is a sound investment. These speakers can last a lifetime. They are designed to deliver fun and excitement so that your music comes to life. That's what it's all about. Now let's take an in-depth look at the speakers that catapulted Klipsch to the #1 speaker brand in the world. So now that you've seen some of the details in the video, let's introduce the team members that actually made it possible. Let's start off with Vlad Grodzinski. He's our Director of Product Development. He's going to share with us why we upgraded these speaker lines.
My name is Vlad Grodzinski, and I'm the Director of Product Development here at Klipsch. I'm excited to introduce to you today Reference and Reference Premier loudspeakers, the latest generation. Reference series has taken an entire revolution in the way that it looks and the way that it sounds, while Reference Premier has taken that next step up in becoming the flattest, best-sounding loudspeaker that money can buy. First, the Reference line, which has taken on a series of upgrades. The first of which you'd notice right away, the way that it looks. It is a completely fastenerless design and cleaner and sleeker looking than ever before. Next, you'll notice the 90 by 90 massive horn on these Reference speakers. Horns have gotten bigger, meaning a wider soundstage, better imaging, overall clarity improvements, and what Klipsch represents. High efficiency, controlled directivity, low distortion, and wide dynamic range. The woofers have been completely redesigned and now use a much steeper angling cone, a trickle-down technology from Reference Premier. Finally, the input connections are now flat, easy to get to, with the floor standing models getting a refined Atmos pass-through that allows you to add an R40SA upfiring speaker to further improve the experience and make accessing Dolby Atmos even easier for that ultimately engaging movie experience. Next is Reference Premier, which has seen a major evolution from an already phenomenal line of speakers. The first thing you'll notice in Reference Premier is the significantly larger horn. That larger horn improves the soundstage and imaging of the product in a significant way. It's much more cohesive with the woofers that it's bound to, as well as fully capable of sounding like it's outside of the speaker. Next, a major improvement to Reference Premier is enhanced cabinet bracing throughout the entire speaker line. From the bookshelves to the centers to surrounds, the floor standing speakers even have subdivided cabinet volumes, so every woofer exists in its own chamber. Additional cabinet bracing minimizes cabinet resonances and improves clarity for every speaker in the line. Next, Reference Premier woofers have also gotten an upgrade with an additional aluminum shorting ring added to the product to reduce distortion. With new woofer designs, enhanced cabinet bracing, and larger horns, the Reference Premier series is the most refined yet.
Thanks, Vlad. Very interesting. Now let's go over to Tony Martin, our Senior Manager of Industrial Design.
The design of our product starts very far in the future, way before the product launch date. Since the design of the product is one of the first tasks that must take place during the product development process, we have the pleasure of working on these products, sometimes even before other engineering disciplines are involved. And while a due date does exist in these early stages, it is off in the distance. So it's much easier to have time to think, to sketch out our ideas, to dream about the product until it is exactly right. This process has happened for all the generations of the reference speakers, but specifically for this 7th generation that we're talking about today, this development stage contained an enormous amount of thinking, sketching, dreaming, testing. To try to quantify this, we have a few facts. There are over 100 hand-drawn sketches, 2,000 hours of music played for acoustic testing. But this is work that we're happy to do because we know that all this effort yields thousands of happy customers. As mentioned before, this is the 7th generation of reference products, and with that comes many years, 6 previous generations worth, of success in the market. So we did not start completely anew with the design. This was not a completely blank piece of paper at the start. We built upon the successes of the previous and current versions. At Klipsch, we refer to this as an evolution, or an evolutionary step. So the design is really the culmination of many subtle aesthetic improvements. So what are some of those subtle changes that provide an improvement to the design? Let's talk about some of those changes now. The most visible difference from the current design to the new design is the removal of fasteners from the front face. All of the components look integrated and seamless into the baffle. We were very cognizant of where one component stopped and another began, and we wanted these interactions to happen at specific locations. A horn, for instance, now pushes all the way to the outer edge of the baffle to avoid an additional break line between the horn and baffle. The trim ring now sits flush with the baffle, and it has a corresponding color and finish so that you receive more of a countersunk feel as opposed to a piece of trim being applied to the top. For the reference Premier line, we again looked closely at the interactions between components in the cabinet. So we again pushed the horn to the outer edge of the baffle to a more logical place at the edge. This provided a better visual balance between the woofer and the horn above. On the edge of the cabinet, we run the chamfer cut vertically, parallel down the entire side. This helps keep uniform spacing between the components. To add some dynamics back to the front view, however, we tapered the grille at the base. This gives the speaker a more athletic stance with broader shoulders and narrowing at the base. It also frames the logo better. This benefit's realized on all models, including the center channel, where the angle created is an improved angle for viewing the logo. As mentioned before, an enormous amount of thinking, sketching, dreaming, and designing went into the development of these products. So I thank you for listening to some of the detail aspects of these new designs.
Thanks, Tony. That's great stuff. Now let's go over to our senior acoustic engineer, Mr. Chris Perrins.
Hi, I'm Chris Perrins. I'm Chief Acoustic Engineer here at Klipsch. I've been with the company for 16 years now. So a little bit about changes we made to the drive units, starting with the tweeter. We added a copper cap to the magnet structure to help reduce the distortion, improve the clarity. We also removed the ferrofluid. I mean, the main reason for using the ferrofluid is to help cooling of the voice coil, to help with power handling, which with a larger horn, we actually don't need the reduction in temperature because we're so efficient, especially at lower frequencies with this larger horn. The idea was we maximize the usable area of the baffle, get the biggest horn we can, and improve the directivity control to a lower frequency, increase the power handling of the tweeter, especially at low frequencies. As well as the changes we've made to the tweeter, we also made some improvements to the woofer by adding an aluminum shorting ring to help reduce the distortion. So aside from what's different on the outside, we focused on the inside differences, starting with the cabinet and the bracing. We beefed up, in every model, we beefed up the bracing to help stiffen up the cabinet and reduce unwanted vibrations. And on the floor standers, we took a leaf from the RF-73 book, where we divided the cabinet into two smaller sections. So what that allows us to do is control the internal standing waves a little easier, because they're higher in frequency, they're easier to handle. The last change that is behind the scenes that you don't see is the refinement to the actual voicing of the speaker. So we spent a long time listening to competitors, listening in different rooms to get a really good natural response out of this speaker. So with this new reference Premier line, we bring improvements to the horn, the drivers, the cabinet, and a refinement to the voicing.
Thanks, Chris. Now let's take it over to our other acoustic engineer, Jay Lawyer.
Hi, my name is Jay Lawyer, and I've been with Klipsch for 20 years. I'm an acoustic engineer, and primarily I will be discussing the reference line. So the current generation reference product has new, larger horns, new and improved cones and cone shape, and also the materials in the LTS tweeter has had a revision. The new generation of reference is really a greater step towards achieving reference Premier sound signature at a lower cost. This is done by several improvements, one of which is a new lighter tweeter diaphragm using the same LTS technology we've used previously. Also, the cone shape has been changed from a curvilinear cone to a straight-sided cone. What this does is it actually changes the breakup mode near the crossover frequency. So you wind up with a speaker that is much smoother and much easier to integrate in the crossover region. The new generation has larger horns, which helps us give a wider dispersion and a better integration at the crossover point to help with polar response where the tweeter and woofer come together. So the new reference line also has updated bracing in the cabinet, and this will help with unwanted standing waves. Finally, the reference subwoofers. These have had increased cabinet volume and reconfigured port tuning to enhance the bass response. The new reference design really takes it to the next level and gets you closer to that reference premier sound.
Thank you, Jay. Now we're going to hear from Rolf Hawkins, Global Product Manager for Onkyo. He's going to discuss with us optimization modes for Klipsch loudspeakers.
Hello, I'm Rolf Hawkins, Global Product Manager for the Onkyo and Integra brands. Onkyo and Integra are synonymous with delivering clean, dynamic, high current amplification and pure, uncolored processing for a remarkably accurate reproduction of virtually any sound, no matter the source. We're proud to announce our exclusive partnership with Klipsch to provide our customers with a truly unique and exciting new feature, Klipsch Optimize Mode. Klipsch knows that you have an emotional connection to the music you love, and being able to reproduce the power and the detail in that music without compromise is at the heart of every design. And just as importantly, for the Klipsch speaker owner, it has to be easy to accomplish. That's why Klipsch engineers approached Onkyo and Integra with a bold new idea, to simplify the setup process of their reference and reference premier speakers, with remarkable results. All Onkyo and Integra audio-video receivers for 2021 include the precise crossover values for specific Klipsch reference and reference premier speakers, eliminating any guesswork or the sometimes arbitrary settings assigned by many automatic room calibration solutions. It's easy to set up in the AVR menu, and the result is peak performance out of already amazing sounding speakers. Let's take a look at how to quickly and easily set up Klipsch Optimized Mode in a 2021 Onkyo or Integra AV receiver. The setup menu for both brands will follow the same steps. Using the remote control or the front panel setup button, you'll see the main menu of configuration options. You'll want to select option 2, Speaker, then select Configuration and press Enter. Here is where we'll tell the AV receiver how many speakers we'll be using. In our Integra DRX 5.4, which happens to have a 9-channel amplifier and an 11-channel processor, let's assume we'll also be using an additional 2-channel amplifier, such as the Integra ADM 20.4, to drive a complete 11-channel surround sound speaker solution. For this example, you'll see I've already pre-selected the 7.1.4 speaker layout, which deploys a pair of Dolby speakers in the front and a pair of Dolby speakers in the back. Just keep in mind that the illustration shown is an approximation of your speaker layout and may not look exactly the same as what we'll be using here. The important thing to remember is that we need to make sure that what we choose are the appropriate number of speaker channels and which channels will be using Dolby speakers in the left column. After we've checked our speaker configuration, let's hit the return or back button, and then, staying in option 2, Speaker, we're going to select the second option, Crossover, and press Enter. Here, all we need to do is scroll left or right using the arrow buttons on the remote or the front panel controls so that Klipsch appears in the crossover type setting. You'll notice at this time all of the crossover points for each channel are set to THX default 80 Hz. These will all change to the preferred crossover values when we've completed setting our system to Klipsch reference or reference premier models. Next, we'll press back or return and scroll down to Dolby enabled speaker. Press Enter, and using the right arrow button, set the distance the Dolby speaker is located from the ceiling. In our system, we'll be using Dolby speakers mounted on top of floor standing speakers or bookshelf speakers, but if you were using in-ceiling speakers, you would enter in the distance here as well. I've pre-selected 6 feet. Again, let's hit the back or return button and, staying in option 2, Speaker, scroll all the way down to option number 9, Speaker Combo, and hit Enter. Staying at the top for a moment, scroll left or right until Klipsch appears. Now we can scroll down and channel by channel select the Klipsch reference or reference premier speakers we're going to use. Let's have fun and assign some new reference premier models for the various channels and see what happens when we go back to the crossover section of the speaker configuration menu. We'll pick the RP8060 FA Mark II for the main front speakers, as well as an RP500C Mark II for the center. For the front height pair, we'll stick with the same RP8060 FA Mark II models we selected for the front channels. This will then assign the built-in Dolby speakers in the 8060 FA to the front height channels. Next, we'll select a pair of RP500SA Mark IIs for the height 2 channels. A couple of pairs of RP600M Mark IIs for the surround and surround backs, and an R120SW reference series subwoofer completes the speaker combo configuration. Okay, we're all set. At this point, all you have to do is hit the setup button to back out completely and return to your video or audio source to enjoy the optimized crossover settings for your Klipsch speakers. But before we do, Let's just take a quick peek back at the crossover points in the setup menu and see if the default 80 Hz THX settings have changed. They sure did. Thanks for watching.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in today to learn about all the great acoustic and cosmetic advancements to these two legendary speaker lines, Klipsch Reference and Klipsch Reference Premier. The team really knocked it out of the park in terms of sheer enjoyment and refinement, in some cases pushing science to the limit. It's like we always say, power, detail, and emotion are the foundation of Klipsch loudspeakers. And now we've raised the bar considerably. I'm Mark Cassavant, Senior VP of Product Development for Klipsch. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'll sing to death.